On this day in history, January 17th. The Edict of Saint-Germain, issued on January 17, 1562, by Catherine de Medici, the regent for her son Charles IX, granted limited religious freedoms to French Protestants, known as Huguenots. This edict allowed Huguenots to practice their faith publicly outside of towns and privately within them, marking a significant, albeit temporary, step towards religious tolerance in France during a period of intense sectarian conflict. On January 17, 1595, amidst the ongoing French Wars of Religion, King Henry IV of France declared war on Spain. This decision was influenced by Spain's support for the Catholic League against him and aimed to consolidate his rule and diminish foreign intervention in French affairs. The conflict continued until the signing of the Treaty of Vervins in 1598, which ended hostilities between France and Spain. During the Reapers' War, on January 17, 1641, the Junta de Bracos, a parliamentary assembly of Catalonia, accepted the proposal to establish the Catalan Republic under French protection. This move was part of Catalonia's efforts to gain independence from Spanish rule by seeking support from France. However, the Republic was short-lived as political dynamics shifted, leading to Catalonia recognizing Louis XIII of France as sovereign shortly thereafter. On January 17, 1648, the English Long Parliament passed the Vote of No Addresses, effectively ending any further negotiations with King Charles I. This decision came after discovering that Charles was engaging in secret talks with the Scots, undermining previous agreements. The vote set the stage for the second phase of the English Civil War, leading to intensified conflict between royalist and parliamentary forces. In January 1649, shortly before the execution of Charles I, the Second Ormond Peace was agreed upon, forming an alliance between Irish Royalists and the Confederate Catholics. This coalition aimed to resist the parliamentarian forces during the War of the Three Kingdoms. Despite their efforts, the alliance was ultimately defeated during the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland. The Battle of Cowpens, fought on January 17, 1781 in South Carolina, was a decisive engagement during the American Revolutionary War. Brigadier General Daniel Morgan led Continental troops to a significant victory against British forces commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Banastre Tarleton. This triumph boosted American morale and was pivotal in the Southern campaign against British control. On January 17, 1799, Dun Michiel Zeri, a Maltese patriot, was executed by French forces occupying Malta. Zeri had led a revolt against the French administration, which had implemented unpopular reforms and restricted the influence of the church. His execution, along with other patriots, became a symbol of Maltese resistance and desire for independence. The Battle of Calderón Bridge took place in January 1811 near Guadalajara, Mexico, during the Mexican War of Independence. Despite being heavily outnumbered, a Spanish royalist force of 6,000 troops defeated nearly 100,000 Mexican insurgents. This battle was a significant setback for the revolutionary movement seeking independence from Spanish colonial rule. The Sand River Convention, signed on January 17, 1852, was an agreement between the United Kingdom and the South African Republic, also known as the Transvaal. Through this convention, the UK recognized the independence of the Boers north of the Vaal River, leading to the establishment of the South African Republic. This agreement was pivotal in the region's colonial history. On January 17, 1873, during the Modoc War, Modoc warriors successfully defended their position against the United States Army in the First Battle of the Stronghold. The battle took place in the lava beds of Northern California, where the Modoc, led by Captain Jack, utilized the rugged terrain to their advantage, inflicting significant casualties on the U.S. forces. In 1899, the United States formally claimed possession of Wake Island, a strategic atoll in the Pacific Ocean. Initially, the island was intended as a site for a cable station to enhance communication across the Pacific. Over time, Wake Island gained military significance, especially during World War II. The Luquillo Forest Reserve, established on January 17, 1903, later became known as Yunque National Forest. It is one of the oldest protected areas in the Western Hemisphere and the only tropical rainforest in the U.S. National Forest System. Located in Puerto Rico, it is renowned for its biodiversity and significant ecological value. On January 17, 1912, Captain Robert Falcon Scott and his team reached the South Pole, only to discover that Roald Amundson's Norwegian expedition had beaten them by a month. Tragically, Scott and his party perished on their return journey due to extreme weather and exhaustion, cementing their expedition as both heroic and heartbreaking. The Battle of Sarikamesh, which concluded on January 17, 1915, was a significant Russian victory during World War I's Caucasus campaign. Russian forces decisively defeated the Ottoman Third Army, which suffered heavy losses due to combat, freezing temperatures, and logistical failures. The battle hindered Ottoman military ambitions in the region. On January 17, 1917, the United States finalized a $25 million purchase of the Virgin Islands from Denmark. This acquisition aimed to bolster U.S. security in the Caribbean, particularly to prevent German influence during World War I. The islands became an important strategic asset for the U.S. Navy. The Greek submarine Papanikolis demonstrated naval resilience during World War II by capturing the 200-ton vessel Agios Stephanos on January 17, 1943. This action showcased Greek resistance efforts against Axis forces, as the submarine played a critical role in disrupting enemy operations in the Mediterranean. The Battle of Monte Cassino began on January 17, 1944, with Allied forces attempting to breach the German defensive winter line and advance toward Rome. The campaign included 4 major assaults over 4 months, resulting in significant casualties, but eventually leading to the capture of Rome. On January 17, 1945, the SS began evacuating prisoners from Auschwitz as Soviet forces approached. This death march saw thousands of prisoners forced to walk long distances in harsh winter conditions, with many perishing en route. Auschwitz was liberated by the Red Army shortly after, on January 27, 1945. On January 17, 1946, the inaugural session of the United Nations Security Council took place in London. The Council, one of the UN's 6 principal organs, was established to maintain international peace and security, with 5 permanent members wielding veto power. The Renville Agreement, ratified on January 17, 1948, aimed to establish a ceasefire during Indonesia's fight for independence from Dutch colonial rule. Mediated by the UN, the agreement temporarily reduced hostilities but ultimately failed to resolve tensions, leading to renewed conflict. The Great Brinks robbery, carried out on January 17, 1950, was a meticulously planned heist in Boston, where thieves made off with over $2.7 million in cash and securities. Known as the crime of the century, the robbers were eventually caught after 6 years. On January 17, 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower delivered his farewell address to the nation. In this speech, he famously warned against the accumulation of power by the military-industrial complex, cautioning that its influence could undermine democratic processes. He stated, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex." On January 17, 1969, Black Panther Party members Al Prentice, Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins were fatally shot during a meeting at Campbell Hall on UCLA's campus. The incident occurred during a dispute over the leadership of the university's Afro-American Studies Center. The assailant was Claude Chuchesa Hubert, a member of a rival organization. In the early hours of January 17, 1991, Operation Desert Storm commenced as coalition forces launched airstrikes against Iraq in response to its invasion of Kuwait. This marked the first major combat operation for the F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighter. During the operation, Lieutenant Commander Scott Spiker's F-A-18C Hornet was shot down by an Iraqi MiG-25, making him the first American combat casualty of the war. On January 17, 1998, news of President Bill Clinton's affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky broke on the Drudge Report website, leading to a major political scandal. The revelations resulted in a lengthy investigation and ultimately led to President Clinton's impeachment by the House of Representatives, though he was later acquitted by the Senate. On January 14, 2013, former professional cyclist Lance Armstrong publicly admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs during his career, including during his 7 Tour de France victories. This confession, made during an interview with Oprah Winfrey, came after years of denial and led to Armstrong being stripped of his titles and banned from professional cycling.